Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm playing definitely one of my preferred vehicles in the game right now on my free-to-play account is the T55A. Finally, well, I don't know, about a year ago managed to get the T55A, and ever since then I realised that when I'm trying to do the mission marathons that this thing is an absolute performer. You know, with the mission marathons, because you're able to play tier 9 tanks to be able to do some of the missions for mastery, then playing your most powerful tier 9 tanks can work out. And the T55A just feels like this absolute consistent performer. Now, what exactly is the T55A? Well, it's the third reward for the first set of personal missions, and while it is inside the German tech tree, as you heard with the crew, and the fact that we're using a chocolate consumable on this tank, it is thoroughly a Soviet vehicle by design. Very, very similar to the T54, as the name T55A would suggest, and I believe it was used in East Berlin, I guess, during the Cold War period, while it was still under Soviet control, and yada yada yada. Alright, now that my limited knowledge of history of this vehicle is out of the way, let's focus on something that I really do know, and that is how this vehicle performs in the game and how to use it to be able to destroy a whole bunch of vehicles on the enemy team. It's very similar to this tank, the T54, right? But it does have some significant differences. Firstly, the gun handling on this is so much better than the T54. It also, to the point where it's almost as if it's using vertical stabilizers, even if it's not using vertical stabilizers. It also has massively better aim time than the T54, and its accuracy is 0.33 base compared to the T54, which has 0.39 base. Now, of course, you can choose to use the lower DPM gun on the T54 to mitigate some of this disparity, but most people on the T54 are using the gun that grinds towards the Object 140, the one that has the 1 extra degree of gun depression. And so, the T55A kind of feels a lot closer to a T62A than a T54, but it does have some disadvantages. Number one, you're not nearly as fast as a T54 is. Number two, your hull armor is very, very weak. We're talking about only 100mm of hull armor compared to the T54's more excellent 120. But of course, both tanks have outrageous gold rounds. 330mm of penetration, which is a 100, or if we're being pedantic, it's a 109mm step up over the 221 standard penetration. I hesitated there because at one point when the T55A first came out, I believe it only had about 201mm of penetration, and Wargaming buffed it significantly up to 221, which makes it so much more usable. But not in a fight like this. This is the battle of the gold noobs. Me and my T55A versus a T54, and honestly, considering that we're both top-tier tanks in this matchup, spending these credits early in this game to be able to gain an advantage against the opposite vehicle is incredibly influential. Now, because I saw the T54 turn his tracks and start reversing, I can be pretty sure that he is done with this engagement. He ricocheted 3 gold rounds off my vehicle and I hit all of mine, managing to penetrate the tank 3 times. But the sneaky lad came round the corner there to be able to get one into me. But luckily, I've got them so low on hit points that I can very easily trade 1-for-1 happily just to be able to win this position and then start to influence the rest of the battle. So the T55A, a T54 which is slightly less flexible on a ridgeline, slightly slower, but oh so much better at sniping. The vehicle also has an advantage with its view range. 395 meters compared to the T54's 390 means that you never have to use coated optics on this tank if you're using a premium consumable and you have a rather good crew. One thing I should mention about this vehicle, just as we're trying to find a shot on this T54 here, while there's an AFK Object 704, is you actually need to be a little bit careful on this tank because it has a dedicated radio operator, unlike all of the other German vehicles, or shall I say the loader is the radio operator, and I wasn't expecting that. Looks like the Object 704 that disconnected, or maybe it was just AFK, or a bot just activated itself and slammed 700 damage into me. When I knew that the 704 was clearly AFK, I decided to finish off the T55 instead, but I really wasn't expecting the 704 to come back, and because of that limited gun depression on this tank, we actually had to expose more of our vehicle than we would want to, although the opponent was AFK. Well, shame on me for farming an AFK tank, right? I guess I could have tried to get its side, but at that stage I was kind of worried about getting engaged from the west if I did go and get its side. A cheeky intuition heat round switch there to the Projector 54 to guarantee that we have the same amount of penetration from when the shell leaves our barrel to when it enters the vehicle, because unlike your AP rounds, your heat rounds lose no penetration over distance. But against an S1, AP is more than enough because that's only got 30mm of armor. And so the 100mm gun on this tank will be more than enough to overmatch the S1. So the T55A just showing why it is just such an absolute beast. We're kind of doing tier 10 damage here, even though we're playing in a tier 9 tank. And look at this accuracy. This is 0.33, which you can improve with field mods. I believe you can improve the accuracy just a little bit. And even if you can't, 0.33 is starting to get to the stage where I feel that there's not really too much benefit in improving it further. And I really feel like this vehicle did benefit massively from the field mods, because having that 395 millimeters of view range, yeah, that wouldn't be very long view range, would it? 350 meters, sorry, 395 meters of view range. Goodness gracious, wake up, is actually a tremendous advantage. Because really kind of no need for coated optics on this tank. You could use a commander's vision system instead for your maps which are very bushy. And a commander's vision system is going to function way better as long as you've got enough view range than it would do if you were to pump up like 460 up to 500 with coated optics. So it makes the vehicle very flexible with that regards. And also, there are now arguably better modules to use on the vehicle than vertical stabilizers. But I don't actually really follow that. By the way, big misplay there. Why didn't I load gold? And did you see me like hammer the gold key about 3 times there, realizing my mistake against the Caliban? Yeah, hopefully that's not going to come back to haunt us. So at this stage of the game, it's looking like it's actually pretty close, but still way in favor of my team. I wanted to not say thank you to the Jagdtiger. I wanted to actually say follow me, because driving up into that corner against the Caliban is not a sensible idea. But let me clarify with that why this game is not actually nearly as close or even in the favor of my team as it appears to be. And that's because your hit points at the top of the screen don't update until you go within render distance. So did you see how when we spotted the Conqueror, our hit points at the top of the screen showing my team's total hit points went down by 1,000. And then they just went down by another 1,000. So do not fall into the mistake of thinking that your team is way ahead if you haven't got all of the vehicles on the other flank in render distance. And as we can see, it's actually way closer than I had anticipated. And considering that looks like an AMX 65T that may or may not have the stock turret on that vehicle, yeah, not feeling too confident in this scenario. Luckily, my Jagdtiger is getting a bit of an engine boost here by our Soviet German T55A, and the AMX 65T actually has the top turret and manages to get a great shot into the 50 TP, but unfortunately for him, that Caliban that we bounced off earlier delivers 1-2 punch from behind. So what have I done wrong in this game so far? Well, I guess I didn't pay to win against the Caliban. I should have fired gold for my subsequent shot, but I fired AP hoping that it was going to be enough, and unfortunately it wasn't. And now I'm in this incredibly awkward situation where I've pushed the Jagdtiger up the hill, hoping that the AMX 65T was going to hold on for a little bit longer. Unfortunately, they didn't, and because I was pushing the Jagdtiger, maybe I wasn't fast enough to be able to go after the Caliban. In that situation, I'm not sure if pushing the Jagdtiger, irrelevant of if they're 950 of our remaining 1,330 hit points up the hill, was the correct move. I really didn't expect this game to escalate as quickly as it has. And now it puts us in a very much a precarious situation, where we have a platoon. I'm not sure if they were platooned at the start of this battle, and the fact that we don't have any platoons on our team suggests that the 50 TP and the Caliban have banded forces to get a Brothers in Arms medal. But, you know, to be able to get a Brothers in Arms medal, they both have to survive, and I might have something to say about it. We'll have to see. So I decided that the 50 TP and the Caliban could be sneaking up and around because we haven't spotted them there, and accordingly I was worried that they were making their way towards my cap circle. So instead I'm going to just sit here and try and provide an ambush, because both of those vehicles can remove my remaining hit points in a single shot. But unfortunately for me, it looks like the 50 TP has actually managed to find the Jagdtiger on my team. Sounds like the Jagdtiger bounces, he takes a shot, the 50 TP and the Caliban have all managed to find them. But luckily for me, because the Rheinmetall Borsig shot the Jagdtiger, that actually provides me with some real good knowledge. And that is the Borsig is still in that position. So at least I now know that the Borsig isn't going to cap, and so I can set up a better defense. So the Conqueror says, oh god, I press affirmative because I knew the ramifications of the situation developing, that it's going to be very hard to be able to get through this. But you know what, screw the Conqueror for being negative there and calling the Jagdtiger pathetic. Even the Jagdtiger says sorry. I mean, come on, you're literally beating a puppy here. The Jagdtiger's managed to get a couple of kills, more than you did, Mr. Conqueror. While you might think it was pathetic, you know, shout it to the gods. Shout it to your friends on Discord. If you're streaming, moan to your stream a little bit, but don't call the player pathetic to his face, right? What's that ever going to achieve? Anyway, my team is now, and well, I should say the Conqueror is telling me to cap. Yeah, I really don't think me capping against 3 vehicles is going to work out. What will work out here, however, is locking down the middle of the map and setting up an ambush. See, what I was thinking is that the enemy team will expect that I'm not going to just push through here into a crossfire that has developed, but instead they're going to make their way up the slope. And unfortunately, for me, as we're going to see in a second, I was kind of right that they did come over here and try and find me, but I must have left that position at the worst possible time because the Caliban just crested the hill and now got myself into an ambush. Nevertheless, it's basically going to become a 50-50 whether I can manage to deal with the Caliban here. And in this situation, what you can't do is give the enemy team an opportunity to be able to go after me. So I decide to be aggressive. Side scrape round the corner. If the Caliban was using high explosive rounds, probably wouldn't have been able to deal with me there. And this 50 TP probably thought that I had a longer reload. And just like that, ladies and gents, we are back in this game. The 1 versus 3 has now been reduced to a 1 versus 1. And again, look at this Jagdtiger's humility. Look how humble they are. Sorry, Yasem idiot. So I guess the Jagdtiger's saying, sorry, I'm an idiot. Doing a sad face, really feeling beaten up that they lost this game. You haven't lost this game, Mr. Jagdtiger. You helped me manage to plow up through the northeastern flank. Now I'm going to hopefully be able to take the rest of this one down. And the Conqueror even takes it further. Look what the Conqueror says in chat. Okay. Cool. Hopefully. So I say, Mr. an MFer. I've been like, yeah, okay, bro. And then, I don't know, kind of getting a bit like into what this Conqueror is saying. And realistically, in this situation, I should just be completely focused on trying to deal what the Borsig is doing, right? I should be trying to put my brain in the Borsig, trying to expect where the German tank destroyer is going to be. We've got 2 minutes and 50 seconds left on this game to be able to take this one down. We've already ruined the Brothers in Arms medal for the Caliban and the 50 TP. Hopefully we can ruin their win ratio a little bit. Or, alternatively, if you want to think about it more optimistically, hopefully help the Jagdtiger feel a little bit better about the situation and help the Jagdtiger's win ratio, right? So, the Borsig could be anywhere. I know there are several locations that the Borsig could be in. They could be up in bushes up here, they could be over in bushes down there. And so I decide, instead of just driving out against the Borsig in the open there and getting myself into an ambush, why don't I set the tempo? Plus, furthermore, there's no guarantee that the Borsig is even in that situation. He could be trying to come at me, he could be trying to flank around, or he could be even getting into my cap circle, which would be pretty much game losing in this situation. So what I have to do is I have to effectively put like an all-in on my opponent. And that is saying, mate, you're going to have to come and do something about me being in the cap circle, or I'm going to win the game through capping. By sitting here, I'm hopefully going to be able to see the Borsig. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And I expected the Borsig actually to be towards my east and not towards my south. I thought that maybe he spotted me with binoculars over from kind of maybe like the A6 area. Luckily for me, the Borsig whiffs their shell, and that gives me an opportunity to isolate them and to pull out this 1 versus 1. So each time I fired at the bush blind there, expecting the Borsig to be in the bush, but as I come around the corner they spotted me again, which kind of ruins my opportunity to advance. So I realize in this situation, with only 1 minute and 10 seconds left on the game, there's really absolutely no point in being chill. And so I decide to side scrape out, use the building there to be able to shoot through, because if they're firing high explosive anti-tank rounds with their 150mm, which they are, I've got all chance to be able to bounce that 330mm of pen. Okay, so now this is super tense. 54 seconds left on the game. You could literally cut the atmosphere with a knife, it's so thick right now. As the Borsig is spotted, I'm proxy spotted by him. And now I'm going to be able to make my play. And that is, I'm going to wait for him to be unspotted, knowing I've got designated target. I'm going to feather the wall here to see where the edge is. And then when he's no longer spotted, I know he can't see me. And I pop round the corner and I put a shot in. Now I just want to rewind that. Now that the tension is over, because I was nervous, to just highlight that engagement so that maybe a couple of people can learn from this. Okay, so firstly, let's clarify. I have designated target. Designated target is a gunner skill, which means that I will keep him spotted for at least as long as he's going to spot me, as long as I'm keeping my reticle in the direction of the tank. A lot of players don't have designated target. I'd probably say that only about 10% of the player base have such an experienced gunner as that they will know or shall I say that they can be able to afford to put designated target on a tank. This means that in theory, I can be absolutely sure when the player can no longer see me or has not probably seen me for 2 seconds by just making sure I'm mousing over their vehicle. So I'm going to use that to my knowledge in this situation, that as soon as I know that he's getting close to no longer being spotted, that what I can do is I can just feather the tank to be able to find where the position is. And I know that because I had that 2 seconds window between when he can no longer see me and when I know that I'm no longer going to be able to see him, to feather the target, that allows me to come around the corner and to get the clean shot in against him. That kind of timing in World of Tanks is only something that you're going to be able to replicate through just the sixth sense feeling. When you've been spotted 100,000 times, you almost get that kind of innate kind of countdown. And to have that innate countdown of that 10 seconds plus the 2 seconds for designated target afterwards, it just worked out really well for me. With moving my mouse to the left and the right to be able to feather the corner, that's an art that's going to be lost if the new update 1.16.1 brings that kind of edge work where all you're going to need to do now is just mouse over the outside of the tank and then you're going to be able to see exactly where the corner is with the edging highlight. Nevertheless, sorry for doing a bit of a deep dive, but maybe some of you appreciated it towards the end game 1 versus 1 here. I feel like I wouldn't usually say this, but I took this one down really cleanly. I think the only real scary moment in this game was when I held that position for long enough, and then suddenly, as soon as I moved around the corner, can you believe that as I moved around the corner, that was the moment where the Caliban came up on the hill and then had me locked down behind a rock? That was a complete nightmare. If only I'd held that position for another few seconds, maybe I could have been able to deal with the Caliban cleaner, because the last thing that you want is to get locked behind a rock in a 1 versus 2 situation, as that's never really going to work out for you when you're a one-shot. This was a tense game of World of Tanks. This was the kind of endgame situation which I kind of live for when I play this game. The real fun opportunity to use your knowledge of mechanics to be able to outplay your opponents, albeit the 2 of them were lower tier. They definitely had a lot more hit points than I had. And you know what, Mr. Yag Tiger? I did this one for you, bro. So an ace tanker here for our T55A. This was for 1,471 base experience, and our near 6,600 damage ended up netting us a high caliber medal. So commiserations to the 50 TP on the enemy team, who was at 5,200 damage at that part of the game. As not only did we snatch away their Brothers in Arms medal by vanquishing them, I guess we also took the high caliber as well. But I have to admit, yeah, playing World of Tanks like this definitely isn't the cheapest way. So this is definitely one of those fancy tanks that you don't play to make a lot of credits. In fact, unless you end up getting in a real nice matchup, you are going to be dumping credits left, right, and center playing a vehicle like this. But the results, they speak for themselves. This vehicle is still incredibly competitive in the game. I think it's a tank that really scales with a very good crew. And with so much flexibility now with Equipment 2.0 and with the field mods, it's better than ever to really set up your T55A for having this kind of combat build that you saw me here with a standard gun ram events and vertical stabilizers, but also probably dropping the vert stabs for a commander's vision system once you got that wonderful scouting slot available for when you end up on your sneaky maps. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. That was a game that was just too tense, really, especially at the end. Definitely got my heart going a little bit. If it got yours going too and you enjoyed it, then give the video a thumbs up. If you hated it, however, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it goes live on Sunday, it's time for the World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase. And considering that Wargaming just made the Leopard 1 and also the T124 top of the tree at the same time, today, considering last weekend was the Leopard 1, I'm going to be featuring the T124. And so if you've ever wanted to know everything there is to know about the American turreted tank destroyers, definitely the most flexible destroyers in the game, then come along right now and I'll spill the beans. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing you all live right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic and hopefully I'll see you soon.